is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and what we're going to do today is plant out yet another Growums box. So as you can see behind me, I have almost 20 Growums boxes now that I've set up, put a good soil mix into, and planted out. And as you can see, some of it, or actually most all of it, is actually growing very well. Now I like the Growums boxes because it offers you guys greater flexibility to grow where you normally couldn't. I mean, we are on a concrete pad right now, and while you could set up a raised bed on here, it'd get kind of messy. In the Growums box, it's a self-contained, self-watering container garden, and it's a fairly large one at that. It's about 2 feet by 1 foot. If you want to learn more about these Growums boxes, please check my past videos where actually I bought these and set them up. You'll also see the exact soil mixture that I'm using here, because that actually is a key component to get excellent growing results with the Growums boxes, because the soil mixture that you're using here needs to be able to wick the water up, because this is a self-watering container. Now today what I'm going to be doing is planting something new out in my Growums boxes, although I did plant some over there. What we're going to do today is plant out some garlic. So you might be thinking, John, why the heck are you planting garlic starts? Isn't that way more expensive, and isn't it much more easier and less expensive to just plant a little, the garlic cloves off the garlic, from the store? Well, that's absolutely correct. So the thing is, I always recommend you guys do the easiest and best thing in your situation. So planting individual cloves of garlic is absolutely the cheapest way, and yes, you can even go to your local grocery store, buy the garlic, and plant that out in your garden. But be aware, much of the garlic being sold in the USA nowadays, from what I have seen, has been grown in China. So if that's a concern to you, don't get the stuff from the grocery store. I want to encourage you guys always to grow the best quality and highest quality, whether it's a fruit, vegetable, or even a bulbous type crop like garlic. Get some heirloom varieties. There's over 100 different varieties of garlic, and I have a really good episode. Check my past videos where I am at the National Heirloom Expo and go to a garlic grower's table where I go over like 100 varieties of garlic, and each one has a unique flavor. Some are what he would call wimpy garlic, which actually I'm growing over there, and some are more strong, flavored, and some may do better in your specific climate. So when you buy at the grocery store, you don't know what variety you're getting, and you don't know how well it's going to do in your climate. So these are plants that will do well in this climate here, and that's one of the reasons why I'm growing them. But the other reason is because in general you want to start garlic in the fall in your garden before the frost, and then you're going to get these guys in the ground. They're going to start to bud up and make a nice home for them. And depending on where you live, if it's not too cold in the winter, they'll grow right on through the winter, like I have in my bed behind me there. And if it freezes where you're at, they're just going to dig in and hunker down during the winter. But as soon as it starts to warm up in the springtime, they're going to sprout, send up their shoots, and be ready to grow and continue their development. So at this time, it's currently March, and I don't necessarily recommend starting garlic in March, although you could if you want to. And I always encourage you guys to experiment. I mean, just because the book says you got to start the garlic in the fall and it's March, or whatever, feel free to try it if you really want to see what happens, because you know what, you might get excellent growing results. In the past, I've always grown garlic, because it is what I call a long season crop. So it's not just ready in 30 days like radishes. It takes a good number of months for it to develop and grow that little bulb underneath the ground so that we can eat it. So in this case, because it is rather late to be starting garlic now from the seed or the little cloves, I got the plants that were started actually back in the fall and growing in a greenhouse actually all during that time. So what I'm going to do is we're going to plant garlic plants in this 1 foot by 2 foot Growums container. And the standard square foot gardening spacing on the garlic is about 4 inches. So we're going to pack these in at about 4-inch spacing. And yes, even though it's a small Growums container that cost me $10, I'm going to plant these garlics in here. And normally I wouldn't necessarily plant extra garlic because I got a whole raised bed, but I was picking up some plant starts and he made me a deal I could not refuse. So hey, what the heck, more garlic. Garlic's a good thing. I gotta keep away the vampires. They're going to get me. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and just very simply, we've filled up this Growums container probably 3/4 of the way full. And normally when you plant plants, you might actually dig a hole and then put this in. But what I like to do in some cases when the plants are more mature, more developed, and I have a space to do this, I like to just place the plants where they're going to grow, and then I like to basically top fill and fill in all the cracks. And it's a lot easier than digging holes and trying to plant. Then you could mess up the roots. As you can see, these guys are ready to be planted because roots are actually coming out the bottoms of the little pots here. And I always recommend also you guys reuse all your pots, save them. They're a valuable resource to have. As you can see, I have all these pots in like a standard concrete mixing tub, and actually I put some coconut coir in the bottom of it that keep extra moisture, especially is important if I'm like away for a couple days. This is one of the ways I like to, give me a couple days extra, to that these plants will not run out of water. So this is just gonna be pretty easy. What we're gonna do is we had just watered these a little while ago. We're just gonna go ahead and tap these out and make sure all the roots come out very carefully and easily without damaging them. And then the other thing that's very important, because this is getting root bound here, we're going to try to carefully tease out some of these roots so that they're not all running around in a ball. And yeah, I'm breaking some and whatnot, but you know what? They're going to regenerate. But you don't want to just break them up too much. So we're just trying to get these to come out from their little massive ball they're in. And this is definitely a really good root ball. These were planted in some good organic compost from what the grower told me here. So besides teasing these roots out, the other thing that's very critical to use, and what I recommend you use in your garden when gardening for the best results. After all, I'm growing my garden not just for a hobby, not just for fun, but I'm growing the stuff I grow to eat. And I want to grow a large volume of food in the smallest amount of space as possible, but also high quality food. So besides adding the things like the rock dust, the trace minerals, and some of the beneficial microbes in the soil already, I'm going to add something that's very important, and it's this stuff right here. This is actually called the Great White Premium Mycorrhizae, and this also contains a beneficial bacteria. So the beneficial bacteria and the mycorrhizae actually live on the plant's roots and help bring nutrients into the plants, so your plants will actually get more nutrition by using this stuff. Because the plants will have more nutrition within them, then that means they're going to grow healthier, grow bigger, and yield more. So definitely that's really important to me. And the secret is you really don't need to use a lot of this stuff. Just a little like pinch on the roots and you're good to grow. So what I like to do is I like to get the large size of the mycorrhiza, and then what I like to do is actually put it in a little shaker jar. And actually they have a little small size here that I use is what I refill. But you could also use an old, spice jar or whatever. And what I like to do is then flip open the cap. Oh, and before I go on, I want to mention, some people have said, hey, John, where do you get that stuff? Well, you want to check your local hydroponics shop. Unfortunately, most garden centers or even big box stores, they have no clue what mycorrhiza is, and they don't sell it separately. It might be included in some of the soil mixes they sell, but I always recommend you buy it separately and apply it directly to your roots for the best results. Now, if you can't find this at your local hydroponic store, you could go to the website for Plant Success, which is the company that makes this. And their website is plant-success.com. So what we're going to do here is just very simply just sprinkle a little bit. Oops, I sprinkled too much. And now that we got that set up, we're just going to go ahead and place this where we want it. And we're just going to do the next one. Once again, we're going to go ahead and tease these roots out. And I guess, pretty much planting garlic is just pretty doggone simple. So I'll probably just do the rest, and I'll come back at you when I got this whole thing filled up. So I'm almost all done, and I got some good news. I thought I was only going to be able to fit 18 plants in here, but I was able to fit 21 plants in this Groms container. So here's the last one we're going to go ahead and plant out. Once again, dumping this out. I'm going to tease out the roots a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and use the mycorrhizae, the great white stuff. So the thing to remember is that, you don't really need to use the mycorrhizae, but I highly encourage it. Will plants grow without the mycorrhizae? Absolutely. Will you get better results with it? In my opinion, in my testing that I've done, you will absolutely get better results using it than without. If you don't trust me, try to experiment on yourself. Not on yourself, but on your plants and see what happens. Basically, 90% of the plants in the world, have a symbiotic relationship with the mycorrhizae. Some of the garden plants that don't generally have a symbiotic relationship with the mycorrhizae would be the brassica plants, or that family of plants. So we're just going to go ahead and stick this guy in here, and I think pretty much we have 4-inch spacing for the most part, except maybe this last row we're getting kind of tight at 3 inches because I'm trying to shove a few more things in to a tight space. And I like when I shove big things in tight spaces. Definitely feels better for me and probably hopefully for the plants too. As you can see, we got all the plants in here, and now once this is full, we're just going to go ahead and take some compost here. We're going to go ahead and sprinkle this in all the little extra spaces in between the plants that didn't get full. And once again, this is similar mix to the mix that's already in the bed, so this actually has a fair amount of coconut coir in there that'll help with the wicking action. Wicking action is very important for these self-watering containers. Now, if you do get these Growums boxes, they do come with a coconut coir block that they recommend you use to plant in. And, unless this is my last option, I wouldn't just plant in straight coconut coir, because the problem with that is that it actually doesn't have a level of nutrition that your plants will need, so you will end up having to use additional fertilizer later, or you won't get good results. So you get to choose what you want to do. I personally like to make a really good nutritious mix and grow in that so that I do not have to add additional fertilizer later. Once I got all this in, I'm just going to go ahead and shake this down and try to get some of this mixture into all the cracks and crevices here. And before I go, I do want to say that, you might be thinking, John, do you really like garlic that much? Well, I have about 1 bed of garlic, and that's, a small percentage of the amount of food that I grow. I like growing garlic because, number one, it's a really easy crop to grow. And I do use some garlic, and I mean, just with 1 bed, because garlic, you harvest it and then it lasts throughout the rest of the year. Just by growing 1 bed, you could have enough garlic for your needs, and this depends on how much garlic you like to eat. Now, besides just eating the bulb, like the garlic bulb and the cloves that we're all used to eating, another thing that many people don't know is that you can actually just harvest the greens. So, I like to harvest the outer green leaves here, and you can just harvest them and chop them up, put in the salads, and they have that nice garlic flavor. So even when I don't have the garlic, I like to harvest the garlic greens for the nice garlic flavor, but don't expect to get kissed after you eat the garlic greens. Alright, so here's the last handful of compost we're putting in. I think we're pretty topped off. Now, normally when transplanting, I like to be very critical of the depth of which the plant is planted. Say we got a plant and it's at a certain soil level, I always strive, unless it's tomato or something, to keep the soil level the same, because that may encourage stem rot on your plants, or if you plant it too shallow, that's not a good thing either. But with the garlic, it's not as critical. So, I did probably raise the soil level up just a little bit, but they're going to be fine. The last thing you got to do after planting all your plants is to give it a little bit of water. So we're just going to go ahead and turn the hose on, and in with these garden beds, I like to top water just a little bit to, get the soil wet, because if the soil is too dry, it's not going to wick up like it's supposed to. And once we got the top wet, plus this helps get the soil and all the different, air pockets, if any. Once we got that wet, then I like to go ahead and take this the hose deal off, and we're going to go ahead and fill up the Growums box reservoir with the water. So I like to just put this right in there and turn it on, and we'll just let this sit a little while. And back in the back, you guys can't see, but it's that little dipstick thing. This is going to raise up to the appropriate level when it's all full. Now, all my other plants that I've grown in these Growums self-watering containers have been actually doing amazing. Some of the things are actually even going to flower right now because of the extremely warm weather, and these are more of the Asian green, mustard-ish type plants behind me. So far, so good. I'm really happy with these Growums boxes. I will continue to experiment growing different crops to see what I can get away with and what's going to grow well. I'm highly confident that these garlic should do fairly well, and we'll see real soon at the end of the season how well they're going to do. One of the things I like about the Growums grow box is that it makes it a lot easier to garden. Especially if you've never gardened before, I recommend getting a Growums grow box or something like an earth box, which this is just an inexpensive knockoff of. And, you'll be successful the first time. Once again, I want to show you guys that yes, you can grow in a small, tight space, just a 1 foot by 2 foot Growums box 21 garlic plants, which at the end of the season are going to grow countless garlic greens to eat, and also 21 of the garlic bulbs that I'll then be able to save and eat or preserve and eat them as I see fit. And maybe that's why I don't have a girlfriend yet anyways. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Once again, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep on growing.